So, hey guys. So, I have some really good news on the OpenSUSE SELinux Tumbleweed front. After that last video I did about SELinux, where I was being a grumpy old man, self-admitted, about SELinux on Tumbleweed, right after they said OpenSUSE Tumbleweed is great for gaming, come to us from Windows, they broke gaming, Wine, Proton, etc. on Tumbleweed with SELinux, switching from AppArmor to SELinux specifically on new installs only, not if you already have it installed, it didn't migrate you. New installs only. So I was being a grumpy old man. Somebody, and information comes from Reddit, and Reddit's not usually a great place, but there is a OpenSUSE maintainer in on this thread. There's street cred there. So the original post is basically this guy saying the same thing that I was saying. You just posted about Tumbleweed being great for gaming. You broke it with SELinux. And Fedora, right here he says Fedora has SELinux, but it never gets in the way like this. More on that in a minute. AppArmor was already working fine, then they threw it out away. That's what I said. I mean, yeah. So he's basically just hashing everything I said in that video. So I want to read some of these replies because they're good. Not even just the maintainer part. Let's see. So maintainer, that's the SELinux policy targeted gaming package. I have this available on my Tumbleweed. I searched for it. It's not installed because I'm not using SELinux. However, again, that's this package that I introduced in order to help with the general problem with gaming. I did not expect that waiting for the remaining pieces for Steam and Lutris to release would cause such a negative response. You broke gaming. What do you mean you didn't think it would cause such a negative response? Maybe he means negative response from Steam and Lutris. Maybe. I don't know. After all the work was triggered by the community not being happy in the current state, just to be clear, the expectation is that once all the pieces are available in the repos, that things should work out of the box. If that's not the case, please open a bug so we can investigate the issue. Awesome. So they understand they messed up. They're working on fixing it. So I'm not a grumpy old man right now. I'm happy. This makes me happy. Okay, genuine question. Why doesn't Fedora have this problem? Is their SELinux less secure? Maintainer, as far as I know, Fedora enables some of the booleans that have a detrimental effect on security by default. So Fedora ships with defaults that are good from a usability standpoint because users do not notice SELinux. For example, SELinux user exec mod is turned on by default, and therefore Steam works on the default install. This is good for usability of the system installed with these defaults, but users who would like to use some of the more secure options would need to make changes. And Tumbleweed does not have that on by default, which is why it's breaking wine. We are currently shipping these booleans more leaning towards a secure by default stance. To give an example, turning on SELinux exec mod is not needed on server systems or desktop systems used for office work and web browsing. Having the boolean off results in more secure systems for these users. Tumbleweed has always been a little more aggressive than they needed to be on securing their platform, I think. The firewall, the default settings for firewall will keep you from finding your printers in your house. And no, I won't stop complaining about that. With that said, I want to stress that I think we should provide a way for gaming to work with SELinux out of the box, but not compromise the security of systems that have a different use case. Finding these solutions might need a bit of time and brain power to work out these solutions. I love this. I absolutely love this. They get it fixed and working. They can brag about being more secure than Fedora. And gaming still works. Not just gaming, but people use Wine and Proton and other and the um, Windows. Wine is not an emulator. Windows is not an emulator. Things like that for other than gaming. They use them for apps as well. But gaming is the big deal. Edit just to make sure this is not misunderstood. I think any system using SELinux is more secure. I do not want to judge the direction the Fedora took. Leaning more towards usability might have its benefits, as this post thread clearly can serve as an example of. Yes, you broke Wine. People use their computers for playing, even if they use it for office work and web admin stuff. They're still going to take a break and play a game on it unless they're in a corporate environment. So, Doubled 112 says also, Fedora did have issues like this in some recent releases. You can click here. I'm not going to click. If you're on Reddit, you can find this post easily enough under the OpenSUSE subreddit. The workaround was exactly that, to set those booleans. To set the booleans to less secure. This is super informative. Thank you. Could there be some way to select a preset that tweaks SELinux in a way that matches the system primary purpose for the user, something that a new user is prompted with on first boot during installation? I can answer this already. I'm sure it's in there somewhere, but just by reading this part, they want to make it to where it's more secure and games will play. There's no toggle needed. I love that. That's perfect. Thank you. Now fix the printer issue with the firewall. Maintainer. The solution we opted for at the moment should be transparent to the user. Exactly. If you run SELinux, it installs additional packages that make the needed changes if you install Steam or bottles, basically pulling in an additional dependency if SELinux is used on the host system. So no selection needed. If you use the gaming packages, you get the needed changes to the booleans. I really hope this works as well in practice as in my test setups. Arcado, this sounds really good. Yeah, I trust OpenSUSE team to know better than random people making Reddit posts. And grumpy old man putting stuff on YouTube. Yeah, I did that. That's good to hear. Sounds like a good compromise to maintain a higher security and by default, unless someone installs packages that require looser security measures to work. I use OpenSUSE now and then, but it's not my main, so I'm often a little behind the news. One more reply. No answer on that question. So, genuine question here. Do you believe people who are into gaming are more likely to understand how to enable it rather than someone who cares about security would likely know how to disable it? So, I think what that question is, and maintainer says, I do not understand the question. I think what they're asking is somebody who's coming from Windows to play on Linux, they're not going to understand how to unset a needed setting or change something that makes gaming or Wine work again, rather than somebody who understands security and wants security first and foremost. They're going to know how to go in there and either check or set more secure settings. I do not understand the question. We are aiming for a solution that does work out for everyone on Tumbleweed. Gamers should get the Boolean change automatically. Other users get the more secure system. And that might be if you install Steam and or Wine, that it automatically installs this extra package that turns those bits and bytes and clicks off on, I guess. Maintainer. Well, the half sentence you asked about was, let's see. My question was regarding this bit of your post, but users who would like to use some of the more secure options would need to make changes. Okay, so, well, the half sentence you asked about was making a point about Fedora users switching from a usability-focused SELinux policy deployment to a more secure setup, if that is their focus need. Maybe we can agree to the fact that some users will have to make some changes on their system depending on the focus, usability, or security, and that ideally the default would be maximize security and the usability settings for most users. And to be honest with you, that's what all of the Linux distributions do. They set defaults that they think are going to be better for the majority of their users. And that's just how it works. I think your question could also be paraphrased too. Why don't you pick a limited subset of usage scenarios and optimize the experience with that group of users? Or make it more explicit for this case, why don't you prefer the scenario that might be expressed as Linux, desktop gaming, Windows gaming, Flatpak, Steam, Lutris bottles, and improve the user experience for these users while sacrificing the security of a lot of other usage scenarios? Because this is what it would come down to for all Tumbleweed users, to which I would respond with A. Tumbleweed is a multi-purpose Linux OS. Users that want to make it as a server, simple desktop, or maybe even just a system to run native Linux games can have the expectation that we provide them with a secure system. B. I also do not think that we exhausted all the technical options with further research we might be able to find a solution that also can cover Flatpak use case. I try not to use Flatpaks. There's a few on here. My Kden Live is a Flatpak because it's just easier to keep up with the codecs because the codecs on Tumbleweed jump around a lot. C, if there's no good solution to be found, then I think the minority can be asked to make one manual change on their system to enable their use case. Minority? The minority? Who do you think the minority is using Tumbleweed? I don't like this answer, Mr. Maintainer. Which minority are you speaking of? Gamers? I don't think that's minority using Tumbleweed. I think minority using Tumbleweed would be for Office. The majority would be the majority using use case scenario for Office workers would be Leap and or SUSE Linux Enterprise. Tumbleweed is a gaming operating system that can be used for anything you want Linux to do because that's Linux. You can use it for anything. But Tumbleweed keeps the drivers up to date. That's what gamers want. I could be wrong. Grumpy old man. D, we have flavors like Aeon, which have a special use case where the needed changes to SELinux are applied since some time as default. And okay, that's true too. Depending on the use case scenario, you have something like Aeon, which is not a gaming system. I don't think. And just like any Linux, you can use it for anything. I'm sure games work fine on Aeon. Okay, how will that work? Will it be a dependency of Lutris and Steam, or will OpenSUSE install it if it detects those installed? Yes, these are dependencies added to RPMs of Lutris, Steam, and bottles, and hopefully wine. So, yeah. Users could also install the RPM manually, which is SELinux policy targeted gaming. That will not be an issue and also fix the problem. Just the convenience feature of auto-installing that RPM as a dependency is currently pending release. That said, Lutris may be out already, did not check. Okay. And this guy says, I don't like the narrative of anything wine being for gaming. We use it for other things. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So, this right here, this one right here. This is one of them I really wanted to read to you. I remember when Fedora introduced SELinux and went through exactly the same pains, and you yourself used Fedora as an example of it working now. That's true. I remember it happening. Everybody said you can't play on Fedora now. You got to run something else. They fixed it. Tumbleweed's working on it. we will come out of this on the other. We will come out on the other side of this, and when we do, we'll have a much more secure system as a result of it. The transition sucks, but in the end, it's worth. The result is worth it. 100%. 100%. Kudos. Give that man a gold star. Yeah, I don't remember. Okay, not really related, but I severely doubt that Windows 10 EOL will have a noticeable effect on Linux adoption. 100%, and it never does. Windows 8 came out and it sucked badly. Everybody said, okay, it's time for Linux to shine. That didn't happen. Windows 7 went into life. Everybody said, year of the Linux desktop. Didn't happen. It's true. It's not going to happen. Okay. So, right here, the switch to SELinux was admittedly somewhat poorly executed. I don't. Maybe. I don't know about that because I think I kind of see Tumbleweed as a beta testing anyway. We're beta testing for the next SELinux or SLE release. Or the next leap. Or next SLE followed by the next leap. So I don't know about that. And how would it be executed better? We don't have testing repos. They should put up a dialog. The default Mac will be the SELinux in this case issues since it's still in implementation stage, and offer a choice to use AppArmor right in the installer explaining. And it may be a better choice for more new users and people specific configurations. And it kind of does already. They said when it came out that you can switch from SELinux to AppArmor in the installer. So I don't. Yeah. I think SELinux in general is poorly executed. There are, to my knowledge, no specific error messages from the user's point of view. And I think that's intentional. As part of the security. You don't want to give away, if you're trying to make it secure and somebody's doing something they shouldn't be doing, you don't want to give away the workaround. I guess. The only way to fix this now is to disable SELinux completely. That is not true. Oh, okay. Hold up, my grumpy old man. He's saying, quote, the only way to fix this now is to disable SELinux completely, quote, end quote. Sorry, but this is absurd information. You just need to disable the only policy that prevents Proton and the derivatives from working. And he is exactly correct, and he's showing a link to the common issues page that I was grumpy old man about in my last SELinux video. SELinux was poorly implemented, but your rant was quite stupid, possibly. So I think a simple option in Yast to configure SELinux. Yast is getting dropped too. That's been the information for quite a long time. Well, replaced, not dropped. Yes. Okay, right here. Somebody actually said what I just said. Tumbleweed is first and foremost testing ground for OpenSUSE. We're beta testers. And I love being a beta tester for Tumbleweed. Yes, a solution is on the road as described in the link. Change automatically install a package called SELinux Policy Targeted Gaming. For the Flatpak version, a manual fix is still needed, as we cannot add dependencies onto them. Manually installing SELinux Policy Targeted Gaming should fix problems with the Flatpak version as well. If you encounter issues, please open a bug. Yeah, I'm happy. Thank you. You're fixing it. You're fixing what you broke. Thank you. I'm not an OpenSUSE developer, but the choice to move SELinux can be easily explained. AppArmor uses profiles to confine processes. In theory, each package should come with one or many AppArmor profiles. AppArmor does not protect you by magic. It can't do anything if a process doesn't have a profile, and unfortunately, most packages don't provide an AppArmor profile. It feels like a security failure at this point. On the other side, SELinux can easily block unconfined things if the policy doesn't allow them to do some suspicious action. Now, that said, gaming can be a security issue. You shouldn't blindly trust games from Steam. You shouldn't blindly trust anything. But at some point, we have to. We just have to pick and choose what we're trusting. However, and yeah, that's true. However, it's still possible they set up. It's still possible to set up a SELinux policy for Steam and other things. Bazite uses SELinux without issues after all. Of course, I fully understand your frustration, but at this point, feel to contribute to improve the situation. Yeah, it's crazy how OpenSUSE and SUSE just never bothered to make AppArmor profiles. Ubuntu and Linux Mint have a custom set of profiles for most apps. Without profile, there's nothing protecting you. That's the problem, since RPM ecosystem won't behave like Debian side, where they create custom set of profiles. OpenSUSE or even SUSE cannot change the side Red Hat package manager. But this implement is annoying to desktop users. By the way, Bazite is a mutable Atom desktop, and Nobara was born for AppArmor usage. In case you don't know, Glorious Eggroll as a maintainer made it. You can absolutely create custom profiles and add them to RPMs, and OpenSUSE can and has, don't know if they still are, add their own custom package to the RPM software. Okay. It will get better. In the meantime, learn to configure properly. And, this is one of those RTFM comments, but it's kind of true. You just have to disable the exec mod protection, which SELinux has enabled by default. This is really an issue with Proton and Wine, but I guess it's easier to blame OpenSUSE and Linux. 100% guilty. My grumpy old man video. I did it. And to be fair, I wasn't wrong. SELinux was added to OpenSUSE Tumbleweed by OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. And this is the command to do so. That might be all I need to share, but just installed a new version of Leap on the machine the other day. Steam and Proton work perfectly fine. That's because Leap doesn't have SELinux. Okay, somebody actually said it here. Leap doesn't use SELinux just yet. Just the Tumbleweed version. Okay, thank you. Give that man a gold star. Okay. And ugly Reddit rant comment. Okay, I think we're done here, but the fix is coming. And it's good to know that Fedora, because a lot of people, I've seen a lot of comments saying I'm going back to Fedora. If gaming is not going to work on Tumbleweed, I'm going back to Fedora. Well, Fedora had the same problem. They used SELinux when they first came out with SELinux. They had the same problem. They just turned the Boolean on, and now we can game on Fedora. Is that the right course? I like the way that Tumbleweed's doing it, because they're fixing it correctly. They're not just saying, well, never mind on this one thing. Never mind security on this one thing. Tumbleweed's trying to fix it. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Tumbleweed. I'm not going to say anything about the printers at this point because I'm happy. And again, use AppArmor instead until they get it fixed. You can switch to AppArmor in the installer. It's click and it's click. Well, right here. Here's one of them. I moved Fedora recently. OpenSUSE went off track. Doesn't suit my needs at all. That's an option. Not every Linux is for everybody. That's why there's so many Linux distros out there. Pick the one that works for you. 100%. Okay, I think I'm done here. If you watched the video this far through, please hit the like and subscribe buttons like everybody asked to, because it really does help. And other than that, just like always, thanks for watching.